Emily Gerson died, our whole town went to her funeral, the men threw a sort of respectful affection for a fallen monument. The women, mostly out of curiosity, to see the inside of her house, which no one save an old man servant, a combined gardener and cook had seen in at least 10 years. It was a big squarish frame house that had once been white, decorated with cupolas and spires and scrolled balconies in the heavily light home styles of the 70s, set on what had once been our most select street. And now Miss Emily had gone to join the representatives of those august names where they lay in the Cedar Bemused Cemetery, among the rank and anonymous graves of Union and Confederate soldiers who fell at the Battle of Jefferson. Only a man of Colonel Sartorius' generation and thought could have invented it, and only a woman could have believed it. On the first of the year they mailed her a tax notice. February came and there was no reply. They wrote her a formal letter asking her to call at the sheriff's office at her. A week later, the mayor wrote her himself, offering to call or to send his car for her, and received in reply a note on paper of an archaic shape in a tin flowing a calligraphy in faded ink to the effect that she no longer went out of oil. The tax notice was also enclosed without. They called a special meeting of the Board of Aldermen. A deputation waited upon her, knocked at the door through which no visitor had passed since she ceased giving china painting lessons 8 or 10 years earlier. They were admitted by the old negro into a dim hall from which a stairway mounted into still more shadow. She did not ask them to sit. She just stood in the door and listened quietly until the spokesman came to a stumbling halt. Then they could hear the invisible watch ticking at the end of the gold chain. Her voice was dry and cold. "I have no taxes in Jefferson. Colonel Sartorius explained it to me. Perhaps one of you can gain access to the city records and satisfy yourself." "But we have. We are the city authorities, Miss Emily. Didn't you get a notice from the sheriff signed by him?" "I received a paper, yes," Miss Emily said. "Perhaps he considers himself the sheriff. I have no taxes in Jefferson." "But there is nothing in the book to show that. You see, we must go by the. See, Colonel Sartorius, I have no taxes in Jefferson." "But Miss Emily, see Colonel Sartorius. I have no taxes in Jefferson, Toby." The negro appeared. "Show this gentleman out." So she vanquished them, horse and foot, just as she vanquished the father 30 years before about the smell. That was 2 years after her father's death, and a short time after her sweetheart, the one we believed would marry her, had deserted her. After her father's death, she went out very little. After her sweetheart went away, people hardly saw her at all. A few of the ladies had the temerity to call, but were not received, and the only sign of life about the place was the negro man, a young man then going in, just as if a man, any man, could keep a kitchen properly, the lady said. So they were not surprised when the smell developed. It was another link between the gross, teeming world and the high and mighty Grierson. A neighbor, a woman, complained to the mayor's Judge Stevens, 80 years old. "But what will you have me do about it, madam?" he said. "Why, send her word to stop it," the woman said. "Isn't there a law?" "I'm sure that won't be necessary," Judge Stevens said. "It's probably just a snake or a rat that nigger of hers killed in the yard. I'll speak to him about it." The next day he received 2 more complaints, one from a man who came in different location. "We really must do something about it, Judge. I'll be the last one in the world to bother Miss Emily, but we've got to do something." That night, the Board of Aldermen met 3 gray birds and 1 younger man, a member of the rising generation. "It's simple enough," he said. "Send her word to have her place cleaned up. Give her a certain time to do it in. And if she don't, damn it, sir," Judge Stevens said. "Will you accuse a lady for her face of smelling bad?" So the next night, after midnight, 4 men crossed Miss Emily's lawn and sprinkled lime there and in all the outbuildings. That was when people had begun to feel really sorry for her. People in our town, remembering how old Lady White, her great-aunt, had gone completely crazy at last, believed that the Gersons held themselves a little too high for what they really were. None of the young men were quite good enough for Miss Emily and such. When her father died, it got about that the house was all that was left to her, and in a way people were glad. The day after his death, all the ladies prepared to call at the house and offer condolence and aid. As is our custom, Miss Emily met them at the door, dressed as usual and with no trace of grief on her face. She told them that her father was not dead. She did that for 3 days, with the minister calling on her and the doctors trying to persuade her to let them dispose of the body. Just as they were about to resort to law and force, she broke down and they buried her father quickly. We did not say she was crazy then. We believed that she had to do that. We remembered all the young men her father had driven away. And we knew that with nothing left, she would have to cling to that which had robbed her, as people will. The town had just let the contract for paving the sidewalks, and in the summer after her father's death they began the work. At first, we were glad that Miss Emily would have an interest because the ladies all said, of course, a Grierson would not think seriously of an order a day later. That was over a year after they had begun to say poor Emily. And while the two female cousins were visiting her, I want some poison, she said to the druggist. I want some poison, she said. Yes, Miss Emily, what kind? For rats and such, I'd recommend. I want the best you have. I don't care what kind. The druggist named several. They'll cure anything up to an elephant. But what you want is arsenic, Miss Emily said. Is that a good one? Is arsenic? Yes, ma'am, but what you want? I want arsenic. Miss Emily just stared at him, her head tilted back in order to look him eye for eye, until he looked away and went and got the arsenic and wrapped it up. So the next day we all said, she will kill herself. And we said it would be the best thing. When she had first begun to be seen with Homer Baron, we had said, she will marry him. Then we said, she will persuade him yet, because Homer himself had remarked he liked men. So the next day, we all said, she will kill herself, and we said it would be the best thing. When she had first begun to be seen with Homer Baron, we had said, she will marry him. Then we remarked he liked men, and it was known that he drank with the younger men. The next Sunday, they again drove about the streets, and the following day the minister's wife wrote to Miss Emily's relations in Alabama. So she had Bloodkin under her roof again, and we sat back to watch developments. At first nothing happened. Then we were sure that they were to be married. We learned that Miss Emily had been to the jeweler's and ordered a man's toilet set in silver, with the letters HB on each piece. 2 days later, we learned that She had bought a complete outfit of men's clothing, including a nightshirt, and we said, "They are married." We were really glad. We were glad because the two female cousins were even more Grisons than Miss Emily had ever been. So we were not surprised when Homer Baron the streets had been finished some time since was gone. We were a little disappointed that there was not a public blowing off, but we believed that he had gone on to prepare for Miss Emily's coming, or to give her a chance to get rid of the cousins. Sure enough, after another week they departed, and as we had expected all along, within 3 days Homer Baron was back. A neighbor saw the Negro man admit him at the kitchen door at dusk one evening. And that was the last we saw of Homer Baron, and of Miss Emily for some time. Then we knew that this was to be expected too, as if that quality of her father which had thwarted her woman's life so many times had been too virulent and too furious to die. The front door closed upon the last one and remained closed for good. When the town got free postal delivery, Miss Emily alone refused to let them fasten the metal numbers above her door and attach a mailbox to it. She died in one of the downstairs rooms, in a heavy walnut bed with a curtain, her gray head propped on a pillow yellow and moldy with age and lack of sunlight. The negro met the first of the ladies at the front door and let them in, with their hushed, sibilant voices and their quick, curious glances, and then he disappeared. He walked right through the house and out that back and was not seen again. The two female cousins came at once. They held the funeral on the second day, with the town coming to look at Miss Emily beneath a mass of bought flowers, with the crayon face of her father musing profoundly above the bier and the ladies sibilant and macabre. And the very old men, some in their brushed Confederate uniforms, on the porch and the lawn, talking of Miss Emily as if she had been a contemporary of theirs, believing that they had danced with her and courted her perhaps, confusing time with its mathematical progression, as the old do. To whom all the past is not a diminishing road, but instead a huge meadow which no winter even quiet touches, divided from them now by the narrow bottleneck of the most recent decade of years. Already we knew that there was one room in that region of upstairs which no one had seen in 40 years, and which would have to be forced. They waited until Miss Emily was decently in the ground before they opened it. The man himself lay in the bed. For a long while, we just stood there, looking down at the profound and fleshless green. The body had apparently once lain in the attitude of an embrace. But now the low sleep that outlasts love, that conquers even the grimace of love, had cuckolded him. What was left of him, rotted beneath what was left of the nightshirt, had become inextricable from the bed in which he lay. And upon him, upon the pillow beside him lay that even coating of the patient and inviting dust. Then we noticed that in the second pillow was the indentation of a head. One of us lifted something from it, and leaning forward, that faint and invisible dust dry and acrid in our nostrils, we saw a long strand of iron gray hair.